I'm Margaret Smith, the chair of the Los Gatos Planning Commission, and I would like to call the meeting of Wednesday, April 9th to order. Mr. Polson, can you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Erickson?
Here.
Commissioner Badami?
Here.
Commissioner Talasvor?
Here.
Vice Chair Birch?
Here.
Chair Smith?
Here.
And Commissioner O'Donnell and Sayoc have excused absences.
Thank you, Mr. Paulson. I would like to ask everyone to stand and join Commissioner Birch in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, everyone who has come to this meeting. And if I could ask if your cell phones can be either silenced or turned off, which is even better. And the same goes for the commissioners up here. If we even leave them on silent, we have a little buzzing in our microphones. So if you hear that, you'll know someone forgot up here to turn them off. I want to state ahead of time that the town of Los Gatos does really appreciate all of the public participation that takes place at these meetings, and also written communications that are sent to the town. The written comments on the agenda items are always appreciated ahead of time. Also, if you give testimony tonight on an agenda item, you can also submit your comments in writing, again, to any of the gentlemen on my right. During the verbal communication period, I will hear from anyone who would like to speak on an item that is not on the agenda. So if you have something that you'd like to share tonight with the commission that is not an agendized item, please fill out a card. You'll find it in the back of the seats, and you can submit that, and we'll go to verbal communications in just a couple of minutes. If you intend to speak tonight, you also need to fill out a speaker's card. And to let you know that the people who come to the podium, they will have 3 minutes to speak, except for the applicant. The applicant will have 5 minutes. When your time is nearly up, 30 seconds left, you'll have the yellow light will come on. We also ask that you speak right into the microphone so that we can all hear you. I have minutes from the March 26, 2014 meeting. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes as distributed? If not, may I have a motion to adopt the minutes? Commissioner Birch?
I'll make a motion to adopt the minutes of March 26, 2014.
And do I have a second? Commissioner Talasvor? Seconds. All in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously. Are there any written communications this evening? Mr. Paulson.
There is a desk item for item number 1. There are copies available in the lobby, and then copies are also provided to the planning commissioners.
Thank you. Do the commissioners need time to read this desk item, or they've already covered it? All right, thank you. Mr. Paulson, are there any requested continuances this evening?
No.
Thank you. In addition to their service on the Planning Commission, members of the Commission also serve on subcommittees. They usually meet in between our meeting dates, and so do we have a report from any commissioner on any meeting? Commissioner Bondami.
The Historic Preservation Committee met on April 3rd, and we discussed 2 items. One was the residents at 461 Monterey Ave. They were requesting approval to remove a pre-1941 residence from the Historic Resources Inventory, and approval was granted. The second item was residents at 327 University Ave are requesting approval of additions and exterior modifications to a single-family residence. We continued the item for more information. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other subcommittee reports? Thank you. This is usually the verbal communication portion of the meeting, and I don't have any cards here, so I will assume that all of you who are sitting in the audience are here for the agendized item. There are no items on the consent calendar this evening, and there are no continued public hearings. Is that correct, Mr. Paulson?
Correct.
All right, so now we're going to move into the public hearings portion of our agenda, and we're going to consider agenda item number 1, which is an application requesting a modification of a conditional use permit to allow demolition, construction, and other associated site improvements on property located at 620 Blossom Hill Road. Architecture and Site Application S14005, Conditional Use Permit Application U14-011. May I have a show of hands for the commissioners who have visited the property? Thank you. And are there any disclosures by any commissioner? Commissioner Talasfor?
Right. When I visited the site, Mr. Miles, who's the general manager, came up and greeted me and showed me the missing story pole that was then marked in the ground with a green paint to show us where it would have been. And then he also escorted me back to the secured rear area.
Thank you. And Commissioner Bondami?
While on site, the general manager, Kip Miles, escorted me to the rear secured area for inspection. Thank you.
Mr. Ordonez, you're going to give us the report this evening?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Smith. Erwin Ordonez for Community Development. What you have before you this evening, as you noted, is a modification for a existing conditional use permit to allow the demolition of existing showrooms and ancillary facilities. The applicant is proposing to add approximately 7,900 square feet of new showrooms and support facilities to the site. They will be retaining existing support buildings that the members of the commission noted that they had visited. In terms of the application, staff has actually been working with the applicant since probably early February to refine the designs. The town architect has reviewed the application. Staff and the architect actually had raised some concerns regarding the requirement for compatibility with the town's character. As a result of that, the town architect and staff actually met with the applicant and the business owner, and they responded accordingly with revisions to the design. What you have before you this evening is actually a revised set of plans responding to some of the suggestions from staff and the town consulting architect. In your packet, there is an exhibit that is the letter from the town consulting architect that actually references the original design, so you can reference the original design to see what the differences were and what some of the refinements that have been made to actually make the applicant's proposal a little bit more compatible with the town's character. The applicant has actually kept the height of the building to approximately 18 and a half feet for a portion of the building. Majority of the building is going to be below 20 feet. They also have up behind you a streetscape, so you can see for comparative purposes in terms of bulk and mass for some of the existing structures. Given the past history of the block, this was something that the staff was very concerned about, and the architect was as well. And so that's why we spent a little bit of extra time working with the applicant to get something that was a little bit more compatible. As it stands right now, the application meets the town code requirements. It's consistent with the commercial design guidelines. And the recommendation before the Planning Commission is actually for approval this evening, subject to the attached conditions of approval, which I believe are exhibits 3 and 4 of your packet. And that concludes staff's presentation. I'm available for questions or comments.
Thank you. Are there any questions of staff? Commissioner Talasfor.
Thank you. You know what? I understand that signage is a separate application, but because I'm looking at this very, as the town architect, as the Mr. Cannon refers to it as a highly distinctive landmark type structure, to me, it seems like lettering then would become more important, because I would like to see that it's well integrated with this building, this very sleek building. So how are we to look at this building without any, I can't see it, and I know that I have no idea if they'll be using the corporate logos for the cars, if they're going to be using just the one name, which is Luxury Cars of Los Gatos, or are they going to, how is that going to be applied? It's going to be hard for me, in other words, to get a full picture of this building without seeing the lettering style.
The existing commercial design guidelines speak to signage, and so that's something that, as part of staff's ability to approve it, we'll be using that as a guide. Again, staff is being very careful with the site given the past history of the block, and so there is going to be some sensitivity with regards to how we deal with signs to make sure that they are compatible. To date, the applicant and the operator have been very willing to talk about some of the suggestions regarding signage. So we'll be working with them to make sure that there are tasteful signs on the building.
Okay, so I would like for the Planning Commission to have a view of the signage, either prior to its being approved or during it, or how can we take care of that?
I think we've had this conversation many times.
Yes.
The challenge is, the signs are a separate process, and so those do
yes,
not
they
come
are.
through the planning commission. And so we can, after we do our work and when we're going to be approving them, we can show you what that will look like potentially as an item that's not scheduled for a planning commission hearing, obviously, but
Right.
just for those who are interested in that. Ultimately, though, we're going to work in the guidelines of the commercial design guidelines and the sign
Okay,
code that we currently have. So we will endeavor to do that.
all right, I appreciate that.
Commissioner Bondami?
In regard to massing, did any of the refinements to the original plan involve reducing the square footage other than height?
No. The main concern from staff and from the architect was the appearance of the bulkiness of the building, because some of the elements that they had appeared to, and you'll see from the rendering that was included as part of the town architect's letter, that what you had there, if you look at that elevation, there's a wall effect to it. So it appeared to be one massive structure. Really, the applicant has some needs with regards to how much space, and staff was not trying to design the project for them in terms of trying to limit that. What we're trying to do is address the issue, and the issue was that given the appearance of the building being one massive structure, we were trying to lessen that. To the applicant's credit and also to the applicant's architect, they actually voluntarily reduced the height. That was not a suggestion from staff. They did that. They modified the roof lines. They provided additional articulation so that the building then appeared to be three components rather than, a larger structure that had three tenants in it.
Thank you.
And then I have a question as well. And the location of this is so close to three schools, Van Meter, Fisher, and to a lesser extent Blossom Hill. But I have seen other construction in school zones that begin at 8 o'clock, which is the timing here, that just wreak havoc on school traffic and construction at the same time. So was any discussion made of that? I can assume that some of this may take place over the summer months, but I'm still very concerned about these big trucks and hauling of soil, et cetera, while all this traffic is trying to deliver children to school.
That's actually something that the commission may feel appropriate to ask the applicant. Staff actually can work with the applicant to develop a construction management plan to try to address the commission's concern. But I think probably the first step would be to ask the applicant about their plans in terms of how to mitigate the impacts given the school hours.
And I understand that. What I see here, though, is the standard language, again, in the conditions of approval. So the comment that I want to make is that I do think that the standard conditions of approval should take into consideration school hours just as a general plan for us. And I will address that to the applicant, but I want the planning staff to know that that's always going to be on my mind, at least.
And if it's appropriate for the commission as a whole, if you wanted to have limitations and have that folded in the construction management, that's certainly appropriate as a condition of approval.
Okay, thank you. I do not have a card from the applicant, but I'm certain that someone is going to address us. So you can come and identify yourself, give your name and address, and then also, before you leave this evening, I need to have a speaker card filled out. All right? And can you turn that mic on, or is it on? It's not on. Let's give you some help here. There we go. And if you can just, that's right, pull it up towards you and then state your name and address for the record. And also, let me tell you, you have 5 minutes to speak.
Okay.
But when you see that yellow light go on, you'll know you're down to 30 seconds.
Okay.
You will also have an opportunity to come back after other speakers. So if there's additional things you'd like to tell us, you'll have an additional 3 minutes.
Okay, great. Thank you. My name is Kendall Cavalli. I live at 3500 Scott Street, San Francisco, California, 94123. I'm not sure if you want my whole address, but that's it. I am the owner-operator of Los Gatos Luxury Cars. We purchased this dealership from Symbolic in 2010. When we did purchase the store, it was how it is now, running and operating out of 3 separate locations. 2 here on Main Street, and then our Blossom Hill location, which holds currently just our Rolls-Royce showroom. The brands that we are looking to bring together on one property include Bentley, Aston Martin, Rolls-Royce, and Lamborghini. We feel it's important to recognize that these are some very unique brands, obviously with some very unique customers. A large percentage of our customer base is actually Los Gatos residents, I would say about 60%. With these customers, they're customers that are also interested, as well as with luxury cars, in art, travel, and we feel that our current facility does not provide them with the level of customer service that they require. We have for years been able to get away with the manufacturers that we currently represent with our facilities with the plan that we would always try and improve what we currently have. And so this is our recommendation or our idea of how we can best serve the manufacturers, their requirements, as well as our customer base. And we feel like this will be the best way to serve our customers better, especially by having our sales and service in one point. So customers are not having to travel from various locations in order to have their needs met by Los Gatos Luxury Cars. This process has started a while ago for us. Obviously, we've been working with Irwin for some time, but prior to coming to the staff, we have also been working with the manufacturers that we represent. They all have very different sort of CI requirements, and so it was a lengthy process for us to come to a design that met both what we feel was complementary to the Los Gatos area where we are. I'd also definitely like to mention, and was going to mention in the beginning, that we love being in Los Gatos. We feel it's a great community. We feel very supported by the community here, and we love our customer base. It's a very unique customer base, and we feel as though it's a great fit for these brands, which, they are sort of strange brands, if you will. They are supercars and very expensive, high-end luxury vehicles, but people are very passionate about these cars. They buy them for the performance, they buy them for the luxury, they buy them for the design. And being in this area, we feel like there's a lot of our customers that appreciate those things about these vehicles, and that's why they choose to buy them. And we really do love being part of the Los Gatos community. We do recognize that Los Gatos is a very special place, that it has a very unique look to it, and has maintained and kept its charm. We do feel that this design was really able to not step on any toes when it came to the look and the sort of overall charm of Los Gatos. We feel like it's quite complementary. We certainly can also say that the current facility that is there is not as good looking as what we are proposing. We feel that it is a bit of an eyesore, if you will, in its current state. We do understand that we are increasing the footprint of the building, but we are well below, I believe, we're increasing it from 18 to 23%. So it is a small jump up. We do feel as though the sort of overall look and feel does blend well with the residential neighborhood that we are in, and we are hoping that the improvements that we are going to make to the back wall and some of the other areas are going to only increase the sort of look of the neighborhood. We are aware of certain issues that would arise for neighbors, such as lights and things like that. We are absolutely going to definitely make what we currently have better by using as many LED certified lights as we possibly can, and lights that shine down, that reduce any sort of glare that would bother the neighbors. I'm hoping that the commission and sees that this is a good project for Los Gatos, helps the customer base for us as well as the residents of Los Gatos who do business with us, and we hope that you like our design. Thank you.
Thank you. Stay right there, okay?
Okay.
Are there any questions of the applicant? Commissioner Bondami.
Did you do any proactive neighborhood outreach to the affected residences to the rear?
Yes, we did. Some of them are here today. We do have residents. We did actually speak to individual neighbors, and thus far we've met with no complaints, no concerns. Everybody has been very optimistic and has really liked the design that we've shared with them, and we haven't had no negative feedback yet.
I have one other question that has to do with the lighting that may affect the rear neighbors.
Sure.
And in the plans, it's talked about that the exterior site lighting fixtures are to be turned off at appropriate evening hours. And what would you consider appropriate?
Well, it would probably follow what we currently do, which I believe is 1 o'clock in the morning. Obviously, for security reasons, we will have motion sensor lights that are on, but we do turn them off at 1 a.m.
Thank you.
Commissioner Talaspour.
Thank you. I have two questions. One is, I'm wondering where the mechanicals will be placed on the building, or is what I'm seeing here in the elevation how it will look, and there will not be mechanicals installed on the roof?
Yeah, I would probably pass that on to the architect.
And also, you need to state your name and address for the record, and
Yes.
also fill out a card before you leave.
So I'm Hugh Hines with Proto Inc. We're the project architects, and our address is 566 Folsom Street, San Francisco. We're working with our mechanical engineer to find the appropriate placement for the units. One of two locations, either in an existing mechanical room on the second floor in the existing footprint above what are currently some office spaces. And the other possibility would be on the flat roof of the new showroom portion, but set well to the back of that footprint, so very close to that existing mechanical room, so it wouldn't be visible from the street.
Okay, do you have any idea what, if it was placed on this flat portion of the roof, what we're talking about as far as height?
Not for certain, but I would imagine it would be a fairly standard, relatively small rooftop unit. I don't know, something of the order of 3 or 4 feet high. And so again, not visible from the street when it's set that far back from the front of the building.
Okay, thank you. And then I have another question. It's about lighting. This one's about lighting inside the showroom. And I cannot remember what you do for lighting now at night when you've left the building. But can you review that with us? Because my question regards lighting with the new building, since it's so much more exposed.
I'll take a portion of that. Well, currently, as in the new design sees, the showrooms are all on the front-facing part of the building, so any of the neighbors that are behind us will not see any of those showroom lights. There will be some, what we currently do, which is some uplighting of what we call a hero car or something like that on the showroom. One of the major benefits of these brands is that they are not volume brands. We don't have a lot of inventory. We sell 25 a year of certain brands and less of others. So, and they're very expensive, so we don't keep extras. So we have very few vehicles that are actually there. So there will be it's not a overrun like a parking lot. So the vehicles that are in the showroom are lit, but they are lit within the standards of what we currently have and of the city, and we certainly will follow any recommendations that you guys have in regards to the lighting.
Okay, the reason I'm asking this is that you do have neighbors across the street.
Yes.
So would you consider, and maybe this is a question of the architect as well, installing some step dimmers that would, come down and maybe to reduced by 25% perhaps?
Absolutely. I mean, the step dimmers would be installed as standard controls anyway. It's often required. And certainly we understand the benefit that would have for the neighbors. It would also be of great benefit to the business because it's obviously a tremendous energy savings to do that.
Okay.
at night.
All right, thank you for that.
Commissioner Birch?
Since we're on lighting, I'll just stay with a couple questions.
Sure.
Looking on sheet AL 1.1, you give us the specifications for your 2 pole lights on the exterior. When I went to sheet A101, I would like to clarify where your pole lighting is going to be. At this point, it currently looks like you are only looking at street front lighting. Will there be pole lighting in the back of the lot?
There will be a couple of new pole lights on the eastern edge of the property. Let's see where to direct you.
Near the car wash or past the Aston Martin showroom and the parking spaces?
So that's a new pole light?
Oh, we don't have that drawing, do we?
Can you take the microphone with you? Thank
Certainly,
you.
sorry. So this is a new pole light here,
Okay,
and then 2 others over here.
okay.
Sorry.
Okay, that helps a lot. Keep that up, please. So typically, when we look at various types of new parking lots or revised lighting in lots, we see a shielding on our pole lighting. I appreciate that you've gone to LED. That's great. Do these have a shielding option? I notice you're using Bega. Bega always has shielding options. Is that something that you're going to utilize to decrease? Even though I see that the throw is within your property line, that doesn't change the fact that people on the other side of that will see a glare. Will you use shielding to prevent the glare?
We certainly can. You
Okay.
sound more knowledgeable than I do about the exact. We have a lighting designer
Yeah.
on the project team, and I'm sure he's aware of the available options. So that's certainly something we definitely can introduce for those lights. Yeah.
Okay, I would strongly suggest that you ask your lighting designer for any lighting that's going to be showing over the residential line to do the shielding option. Like I said, it's a standard with Bega. So it will decrease the lighting to your neighbors significantly and cause you a lot less issues down the road.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, can I have one more question?
Certainly.
Okay. My other question deals with the timing of the car wash. It looks like the car wash runs adjacent to your open hours. I'd like to know what kind of noise level. I doubt you're washing cars every day, so I guess I'd like to know the typical use of the car wash and the noise
Sure.
levels.
I think it's important. We probably, in retrospect, should have named that as a detailing area. We don't actually have like what you would think of as an automatic car wash. All cars are hand washed. So there is no automatic like pressure washer or anything like that, or blowers, or none of that's done. They're all hand squeegeed, hand washed. We have an electrical water hose, but no different than what a slight, it's electrical, so there's no pressure washer at all based on these vehicles. So the noise is actually very, very, very little. We don't do car washing on the weekends mostly as much, so it's definitely reduced then when our service customers are not visiting the store. But it's the noise level is very low.
Can I just do a follow-up with that? But do you do vacuuming at that site? And what kind of, is it a loud vacuum? Or?
No, it's like a small like shop vac handheld. I mean, most of these are new cars that we're going to be detailing, so when they come from the port, they are clean. Most customers with these cars, to be honest with you, detail them on their own, based on their own detailers, their own team, their own things that they like to be used on the car. So we often, when a service customer comes in, are only washing the exterior of the car besides a light, vacuum of the carpets.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Erickson.
So thank you for being in town first,
Of course.
and thank you for the care that you've given to the design and the thought you've given to it. So in the course of, I have just one general question. It's not about lighting. It's not about car washing. Anyway, so in your presentation, you said in the design approach, you were trying not to step on any toes with respect to the character of the town. That's a relatively low standard. We would rather, and it's probably a question for your architect, I'd like to know how in your design, rather than just stepping on toes, that you actually see yourself contributing to the character of the town, not avoiding doing something bad to the character of the town.
Sure.
If you could.
Yeah.
It's really an architectural design question, probably.
I think he can probably answer that. I can certainly say for our behalf, we just certainly took a lot of time to go around the town and look and see at the recent projects that were done. The library, for instance, is a good indication of what we want to do for our landscaping, as well as the material is a very similar looking material. And we sort of went around and with some suggestions from Irwin of certain places to look, we kind of wanted to complement what was currently there, projects that had currently been done. So we were staying on the same trajectory when it came to design. By stepping on toes, what we didn't want to do is really, we didn't want to throw something out there that was, when people hear Bentley, Rolls-Royce, Aston Martin, they might think something really crazy. And if you certainly will look at the current new Lamborghini showrooms that were built in LA and other areas, they are really crazy and weird looking. So, we didn't want to come to the table with something like that we obviously knew, was not going to be a well-liked or approved or anything like that. And we certainly wanted to take into consideration that this is a unique situation where we are in a residential neighborhood and we get along very well with our neighbors, and we wanted to make sure that they also liked the design and didn't feel like they were looking at, a obsidian black Lamborghini store with flashing lights and crazy signage. But Hugh can probably speak a little bit more.
Sure. I would say that obviously it's an auto dealership. Its primary function is to sell cars. However, in looking through the town guidelines, the planning guidelines, and also our time spent in the town, it's clear that pedestrian walkability is a key aspect of what makes Los Gatos so notable. And so that's one thing that we're really proud of in the project is the way that we've taken the existing portion of landscaping around Blossom Hill Road, which currently is lawn with a steel fence in front of it, hardly welcoming. And in fact, we're introducing a really, what's going to be a beautiful portion of drought-tolerant landscaping, some interpretive signage to explain what species of plantings are there, and really try to create an amenity for the pedestrians. Every time we're out there at the visiting the project site, there are people walking on the sidewalk there. It's quite clear that people really do use that sidewalk, and so we feel as if having this edge really softened up could become an incredible bonus for the people who live close by.
Commissioner Talaspour.
Thank you. My question is about your delivery times, and I know that you have them now, and there's some that are reflected here in your conditions. And what it says is they would occur between 9 and 4. What are your delivery times now, and will they vary from this?
As in new card like deliveries for vehicles?
Yeah.
Like when they're via transport?
Yes.
It would be the same, that 9 to 4.
Is that what they are now at this?
Yes.
At this location?
Yes, they are.
Do you typically have more in the 9 o'clock timeline, or is it more the 4 o'clock? And the reason I'm asking has to do with the schools as well.
Sure.
Because their their let-out time is anywhere between 2:22 and 3 o'clock.
I would say the majority of them are earlier than later. Obviously, if I could put a time on those truckers, I would love to, because they are third party, so they do work. We can't necessarily control their schedule. But I would say the majority of them are on the earlier side, and I'd also definitely would like to make sure to notice is that, these aren't trucks that are going to be delivered on a bi-monthly basis like you would have at a normal dealership where you've got 2 semis coming with 20 cars. These are almost delivered singly, one by one, or 2 at a time, so in a covered carrier, so it's a bit of a different delivery.
And in fact, what I'm wondering is there room on the property for them to totally pull onto and then deliver? No. So
No, they do pull along the side of the road currently.
Currently, okay. And can I just ask time, how long it takes? I know one car wouldn't take as long as 6 cars, but just can you give us a picture?
I would say-
I would like you to do is give us a picture
Sure.
of what we could anticipate being delivered if it was you had a lot of orders.
I would say typically, I would say no more, the truck would never be stationed outside the dealership more than 2 hours, ever.
Okay.
I would say 45 minutes to get a car off the truck and signed for, at most. And we probably see 2 a month, maybe.
Okay. All right.
Commissioner Erickson?
So I'm going to cycle back. I actually had a follow-up question a moment ago. So I appreciate the answer that you gave, and I think that's consistent with the character of the town and contributes positively in a positive way. One of the considerations we have to make in approving the architectural and site application is that what you're doing will enhance the streetscape and be compatible with the surrounding development. That's part of our duty. So there's what I would call an emerging neighborhood that's new and fresh across the street that will, when fully developed, will change the feel of that corner. It all passed here quite some time ago, as a matter of fact, but it's now becoming reality for the people who there. So I guess part of our considerations need to be is how you see this from an architectural and design standpoint, so we can say we dutifully into that consideration. How is what you're proposing compatible with that particular development, which will have a huge impact on, when fully completed, on that part of town, and you're then the next big development that's contributing to that part of town. So how from your standpoint, when you came up with this design, did you make those two things work together in your mind's eye? Because you have it in your mind's eye. We all experience it after you're gone and it's built.
So just to address the building specifically, because I presume that's the nature of your question. If you go along Los Gatos Boulevard, and if you go along major thoroughfares throughout the Bay Area, really anywhere in the country, there's a prevalence of auto dealerships which tend to have acres of parking in front of them. There's a shiny aluminum-clad building and large signage, and they're screaming, sell cars, sell cars, sell cars. So that's become sort of a really common typology. And so we were really trying to resist that as much as possible while meeting all of the operational requirements of physically selling cars. So choosing materials that are not bright and shiny, that are muted, that have richness to them, that have a color and tone that really is consistent with some of the neighboring residential buildings and some of the other buildings that we've seen around the town. As Erwin mentioned, dropping the height of the building, it's one of the lowest, if not the lowest, building in that surrounding area now, even when you can compare it to the residential buildings. And really trying to break up the mass and really trying to make almost 3 buildings, each of which faces in a different direction that responds to the curvature of Blossom Hill Road. It might not be so apparent when you look at the elevation, but when you look at the plan, it does break the facade. So we're trying to reduce the sense of there being this monolithic wall along Blossom Hill and really try to have something that's much more, to the extent possible, broken down in scale and really more consistent with the scale, the footprint of the adjoining residential buildings, particularly across the street.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Bondavi?
I believe you may have just answered it, but I was concerned about the long wall, because that's how it appears to me, one long wall for the streetscape. So would you consider moving the sides of the building back just a little further to reduce the massing and kind of soften the edges?
One of the issues that we're trying to reconcile with the project is just the existing building, an economy of means of trying to make improvements but retain as much of the existing building as possible. And so unfortunately, given the setback requirements the town has, which, as you know, are increased for this property, given that there's residential properties across the street, means that we're kind of squeezed between existing footprint that has to remain and that setback line. So in fact, these are very slender They may not look appear that way to you on the plan, but compared to most commercial properties, most auto dealerships that you deal with, that you can see, it tends to be much more of a square footprint. So each of these showrooms is a sort of a narrow rectangle in plan. So we're already very squeezed, let's say, in terms of the front of the building. The problem is we need to meet certain requirements. If we were to squeeze the building, move it further back from Blossom Hill, that would necessitate going even longer and broader. So what we arrived at was really trying to balance the sort of the pressures of front and back getting squeezed with the trying to avoid going really any longer of a building, any longer of a facade.
Thank you.
Commissioner Birch?
I think to help with that topic, could you clarify something for me, the architect? It appears on this diagram or photo picture that we have from Canon Group that the windows on each side, the Bentley and the Rolls-Royce, are set in. Obviously going to give a shadowing effect, make it not feel like one long wall. Can you tell me how far set in those are? Is that 6 inches a foot?
Off the top of my head, I think it's more like 3 feet, actually.
Okay.
What we're trying to do as well is, since there is about a plus or minus 30-inch level change between the floor level of the showrooms and actually the street, to allow for pedestrian walkway so that somebody could actually walk along the building. Wouldn't necessarily be sheltered from the rain, but at least it does give a sort of perception of being almost under a canopy or walking along a colonnade. And as you mentioned, it definitely has benefits to shadow line, increasing the sort of the depth, and trying to mitigate any sort of perception that it's a sort of a thin, cheap facade.
Okay, thank you. That helps.
I do want to mention one thing, and then I just want to ask you a question about the traffic control program as well. One comment I want to make is that if you are no longer going to have showrooms on Main Street, you are going to disappoint many young people who stop by and take a look at those cars, especially when their doors are up. So I'm just making that comment because I'm going on to the school situation and the construction management plan. And I want to comment that we recently had a large development at redevelopment or improvement at St. Mary's School on Bean. And one of the really good things that happened is that the construction manager's phone number was posted right on the site so that the neighbors could call one person that was his cell phone and make the problems known right away without having to go through the town or go through 3 or 4 different layers of people. So I want to be able to put that into the conditions of approval if you will agree to that. And then the second thing that I want to mention is that I'm very concerned that the peak hours of your hauling and your major vehicles in terms of construction vehicles in the afternoon is listed as 4 to 6 p.m. And I know from personal experience that the school traffic begins actually at 10 minutes after 2 and isn't alleviated until almost 3:15 between bikers, cars, and walkers. So I think it's going to be a very dangerous situation that you're going to have all those kids, all those cars, and you might be hauling during that time. So I'm wondering if you've given any thought to that, or you've met with your construction person, whoever that might be.
I can address that. The contractor has not yet been selected for the project, but to address your first point about availability of phone numbers, we could certainly write that into whatever contract was issued and make that a condition of selecting a particular contractor. As for the hauling, one thing that I think is possible is the fact that this is a fairly large site. So I think there would be a possibility to, let's say excavation was happening in the morning, to actually store spoils in an area of the property, and actually control the timing of when that soil was taken off site, or for the same thing would apply to delivery. And so we can use the staging facilities that we have on site to control that.
Thank you, because that is what I'd like to have put in black and white to have happen there, so there's no question about that. Thank you. Any further questions? Oh, Commissioner Callis, first.
Just have one question. I wanted to make sure that I was clear that, that I understood that the servicing of these cars would happen inside, totally
Yes.
inside?
Yes.
But you have to have the doors, some door ventilation open, is that correct, or do you close
Well, the
all
service
doors?
facility that we currently have is not changing, so it is going to remain exactly the same as it is. There's actually two roll-up doors, which serve as garage doors that are currently there, obviously, but nothing to that proportion of the building is actually being changed. So it's remaining exactly how it is. We shut down pretty regularly by 5:30, so those doors go down.
Have you ever had any complaints from neighbors about car service noise?
We have in the past, and we no longer actually do service vehicles on the weekends for that reason.
What about during the week?
No,
Okay,
no.
all right, thank you.
All right, that's, you could sit down now. We're still going to give you 3 minutes, so you can be thinking about anything you might have left out, and then we'll call our next speaker. And I'm sorry if I don't have this last name properly. Rod Sachi? Yes. Please step forward. And just for the record, if you could state your name and address, please.
Sure. My name is Rod Sashi, and my street address is 634C University Avenue. I have a business there on University. I also have a home here in Los Gatos at 17975 Ogallala Warpath Road. And I'm here in support of the renovation. I'm a neighbor, a business neighbor of the Los Gatos Luxury Car Group. I purchased vehicles on the Ford dealership, which is no longer there. I've purchased vehicles here in Los Gatos and the Honda dealership, which is no longer here. And I've also purchased vehicles at the Los Gatos Auto Mall, which is now the Los Gatos Luxury Cars. So I'm here in support of it. There's a lot of car enthusiasts that are here in Los Gatos. I think it's kind of a magnet for even those enthusiasts that are in San Francisco and San Mateo and Menlo Park. So I'm looking forward to it, and I hope it meets with approval with the commission here in Los Gatos. So thank you for listening.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Sachi. Any questions? None at all. You can be seated.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
The next speaker is Lally Narwhal.
Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Lally Narwhal. I live at 730 Silker Court, Los Gatos, California, 95032. And we live in a property that is just adjacent to the dealership. I guess it would be on your southwest side. And so obviously we have a few questions and obviously some concerns about how the property usage will be changing over the next little while, specifically about the lighting situation that will be on that side of the property. And we've also noticed that the usage of that area has changed over the last couple of months. You are now using it to sell used cars, which are certainly not at the caliber of the cars that you mentioned before. So we'd like to understand what your plans are for the area there. And then from a lighting situation, I actually went to you guys a couple of years ago about the lighting, and you were kind enough to at least do something about it by turning the lights down a little bit and turning lights off at 8 o'clock. But lately, obviously, the hours have extended, and we certainly have...
Sir, can I ask you, you need to address the commission.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
And so the hours seem to be a little bit later than they have been before. And we're a bit concerned because we do have a daughter now, and her room actually backs onto that part of the property. And so we're kind of forced to close her shades pretty early. And obviously we just want to know what the impact would be going forward to the lighting situation at the back, especially now hearing that there are a couple of new lights coming in. And then also, we wanted to know a little bit more about the back walls as well. So I guess to take a step back, we weren't consulted at all on this, and maybe we just weren't home when you guys were soliciting, but we would certainly love to work with the the dealership to make sure things work for both parties and everything works in favor. So just to get a little bit more information about that would be great, and just ensuring that the lighting situation is certainly appropriate for folks on the back. One additional thing we are a bit concerned about is also the fact that now a lot of your detailing is happening in that back corner, which has been a little bit noisy, and there has been use of pressure pumps, if it's electrical or whatever type of pump it is. It certainly has been a bit noisier than in the past. So I just wanted to bring that to the council's attention, and hopefully we can resolve this. Okay.
Thank you very much for your comments. Now stay right there because we have a question for you.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Talasfor.
Thank you. Thank you for coming down tonight.
Sure.
Can you tell us again where your house is in relation to
Sure. Could you
the
show that
proposed
map and I
building?
could show you?
Can we get one up there for him?
So this is an old map.
Do you want to take the microphone with
Can
you
take
as you speak?
take the mic?
So it looks like this is an old map.
Okay, can you take, can we give him the new, our
Can I
elevation?
just go up there, or can this?
Yeah, just
Oh,
go
there we
ahead up there.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
So it looks like this is the corner here that we live on. So you have the lines in of what the current, our current HOA looks like, but our houses are not in there. So you see there's some paved area. So this is all houses now, so this is like a really old map. So
Okay.
we live right here,
Oh, okay, fine.
There.
I got it.
right where that tree
Right
is.
there. Got it. All right. And, okay, so you mentioned two things. One was the new lighting that would be installed
Yeah.
on the,
So currently, there's
Light
lighting all along Blossom Hill Road, and it looks like on the plans that were shown, it looks like there's going to be 2 new light stanchions there, if I'm correct.
Okay.
So we're obviously concerned about that.
all right. And where now do they do the washing?
Right here. They were doing it today.
Okay. All right. And was that your two concerns?
Yeah, just the level. So when we first moved in, that part of their property was not really used extensively. They didn't have any used cars there, and you have the right to do whatever you need to do there. So, but first couple of years, we obviously didn't have any issues. But now that they're using that area for selling used cars, and also in the back corner to detail and clean their cars.
I'm going to get back to the lighting, and then I'll be done with my questions for you. But if you were to have the lighting dimmed, would that work for you? Or would you need
Yeah,
it to be
absolutely.
off?
We also want to be good neighbors, and we understand
know.
that there's
I understand, but-
security issues and things. So as long as there's some way to decrease the amount of light, if there's dimmers or something that decreases the amount of light that shines in the back of our house, I
And
think
do you have a certain time that you're thinking?
what time a normal 10-month-year-old would go to bed. So, I mean, I think when we last talked, we agreed on like 8 or 9, which was reasonable, right? So around that same time, I think is fair, and as long as it's not shining right in, I think we'll be able to figure out something.
All right, so the areas you were concerned about were the used cars, the lighting, and the washing of cars.
Yeah, just,
Okay, thank you.
okay.
That's great.
Any other
I
questions?
think you can have a seat.
Cool.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Richard, and I'm sorry, I don't know the pronunciation of the last name. B-E? Is it a J? I-U?
It's both pronunciation and writing, I suspect. It's Began. My
thank
name
you.
is Richard Began. I live at 165 Ann Way here in Los Gatos. As a resident of 27 years, I've seen a lot of change occur in that corner, that wonderful corner between Blossom Hill Road and Los Gatos Boulevard. This corner has gone from a rather modest corner to busy on 2 sides, busy on 3 sides, and now with this enormous project on the 4th side. I have a friend that works at the Los Gatos luxury car dealership, and as I saw the orange tape there, I talked to him and I went over to look at the plans because I was curious. That's what he thinks. I really went to look at their beautiful cars. But it was very interesting to see this change and to see how this dealership, which is an aged dealership, still looking very sophisticated, but dated by some of the other buildings that are going up there. I think that the quality of the design looked to me like the kind of design that's appropriate for Los Gatos. It hits the spirit, it hits the nature of the town, it hits the so the high quality to the things that happen in town, whether it's Epicurean or cultural or whatever, educationally. I'm not a customer of theirs. I'm not an employee. I'm not related to anyone there. I'm not even going to be able to buy one of their cars. But I am a Los Gatos resident who really sees this kind of development as significantly impacting a local trend of car dealerships struggling, and this would enable that car dealership to flourish and to grow and produce more revenue for the town. I think that's excellent. And I think comments that we heard from the group about drawing, or from one of the other townspeople about drawing people from other towns into Los Gatos, that means more business, more people, and more tax revenue, and I certainly would support that. I feel that their designs are in keeping with the progressive and the sophisticated nature of Los Gatos, and they're going in that direction. I was not privy to the kind of designs you have seen today, which are the latest iterations, which look even more remarkable than the ones I saw previously. I would encourage the Planning Commission to approve their proposal and to move ahead expediently so that they could achieve this in a right time frame and really augment the business as they've suggested. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any questions? Thank you again, sir. You may be seated. All right, we have one more card, and it's Brian, Mekechuh. Challenging me this evening.
UK, Mekechuk. Brian Mekechuk. I live at 55 Roberts Road, Unit D. My oldest son used to go to Fisher, and he's graduated now. So I'm very familiar with the traffic at that corner and have lived in Los Gatos since '95. So I've seen sort of the evolution. I think that, first of all, I'm in support of the project. I think it's going to be well done. I think that it's going to make that corner look much more attractive, much more fitting in Los Gatos. The corner of Blossom Hill Road and Los Gatos Boulevard is going to become fairly intense. And the intensification, I think, I don't think this project will intensify it that much, because I don't think it's a huge draw. So I'm good with that. I think that the Planning Commission will make sure that the issues are addressed in terms of lighting. I would put forth that you don't have to be that concerned about the loading and unloading of vehicles. I've gone by there numerous times, and there's really very little, from what I've seen, of vehicle loading, unloading. So I am in support of the project, as the Planning Commission will manage it through the various components. For example, having a single point of contact on the board there is huge. I think that's a great idea.
And then I have a question for you. Since you are a very local resident and you've also been through the school scene, would you have some hours in mind when you think the hauling does need to stay on site until the traffic weeds away, or do you think it begins at 2:15 and really doesn't end until 6? Because then we're faced with rush hour traffic on Blossom Hill in terms of workers.
So I had a couple thoughts on that. One is, you've got a certain amount of material, you've got to move it, and you're going to deal with pain anyways. So you either spread that pain over a lengthy period of time by reducing the hours, or you've got a concentrated period of pain. Pick your poison. Having said that, to answer your question directly, I think that there's very little school traffic after 4 p.m. No one, as I recall, is hanging around that late. So I think that between 4 and 6, you're okay. And in terms of just normal traffic, it's part of life.
Well, thank you for your comments. I appreciate your time this evening. Any other questions? You may be seated then. Thank you. I'm now going to give the applicant an additional 3 minutes, if you would like to take it, to add any further comments you have. Anything you might have thought of as we've been talking up here?
Well, first, I just want to say thank you to everyone who did come to have a comment, because we certainly want to work well with our neighbors. And I do see that Kip gave you his card, so that change to the lighting we can actually do today. So if that is a concern for you guys, we can actually address that prior to this project.
Again, you need to address your
Sorry.
comments to us.
Sorry.
Thank you.
So we can address the lighting issue for that neighbor immediately if that's something that needs to be done. So obviously we weren't fully aware of the situation. And also in regards just a little bit to the wall that backs up to his actual property line, we're going to be replacing that fence with a lovely, a much better looking security, masonry wall, that's what it's called. So it'll be much better looking than what's currently there as sort of a broken down old fence line. So that's all I have to say. The only other thing I wanted to mention also is that when he did discuss used cars, we have actually did start selling some additional used cars off of our current building. And the footprint of our dealership is very large, and we don't actually utilize the space. So for us, it was an opportunity to generate some money to be paying for this project. I'm not sure that afterwards, I know there was a question of the caliber of vehicles that we necessarily will have space for that based on bringing everything together. But I think it's important to mention that I know this is an old picture, but we would never have that level of inventory ever on our property. That's a dealership prior to us that has an exceptional amount of inventory that we would never carry. So it would never look like that in our current luxury brand. So that's something to make sure that the council knows. And then I think our architect will address some of the other questions. Thank you.
I think Kendall did a good job of addressing all the questions. Thank you.
Well, how about if one of you steps back up again, because we do have some questions. Commissioner Birch?
I meant to ask this earlier. What is your construction schedule when you begin to plan starting?
We're shooting for breaking ground on August 1st. And the most conservative construction schedule puts us opening on May 1st.
Okay. So
That's
I think
the longest one. In fact, we could constrain it actually significantly, potentially.
conservative is good. So I guess you're hearing from everybody up here that you are hitting right in the smack dab of school, and you do have a construction site across the way. I would hope when you do bring your general contractor on board that you would please request coordination meetings with them also. I would not want to see Blossom Hill lined from side to side with concrete trucks, and it looks like you're going to be overlapping on some of that. That would cause not only just a lot of grief for the drivers, but it is a major safety issue for the children that scooter and bike through that areas. So I would really request that you do some coordination meetings with them, please. I would also ask for the concern of your neighbors that you redo your photometrics to reflect showing the shielding and make that available to all your neighbors so that they can see that lighting won't be an issue. Those were my questions, but if I can make a comment, aside from all of this, I just want to say that we are really glad to have you in town. I think the design is great. It's going to look really nice. I happen to go up and down that street all the time, and I'm looking forward to the change. I think it's going to be beautiful, and it's going to be nice for all the pedestrians too, so thank you.
Commissioner Talasfor.
Right. We heard from one of the neighbors, so I'll try to make this quick. You addressed the lighting issue, so you will be working with that. He also mentioned the fencing, and I'm hoping that when you choose this fencing, you might run that visual by the neighbors as well, so it's all transparent and they know what they're getting. If you don't mind, you are very close to their property lines, and even though you were there first, this is a good neighbor attitude. But I did want to ask, the gentleman was mentioning that there was car washing going on, so can we review what the activity will be in that area that is against all the housing, so we know?
Yes, we do actually have a team that comes once a week to wash the cars that are on site. They sort of squeegee them and do a little wash that like display vehicles, if you will. So they're not going through a full car wash. It's just sort of like lot cleanup. So that would be most likely if it was, like you said, today. The general manager said that they were there today, so that would be what he's referring to.
Is there any other place?
We can move it. Mm-hmm.
Can you move that? That would be, thank you very much. I think that just would alleviate a lot of issues. And really, honestly, it's wonderful to see that you're going to be staying here. There's so many positive elements to this project. The proposal as far as, keeping, giving us back some rental space on Main Street, staying in town. Thank you very much. We've been struggling with keeping our car industry here. But mostly, I'm so excited about this sleek, modern 21st century building that is coming to Los Gatos, and measuring that against the commercial design guidelines. I think it's going to complement and fit into the Los Gatos landscape extremely well. So I'm very excited about that. It's not a run-of-the-mill architecture. It's not even common architecture. It's definitely exciting. And it really, Los Gatos is ready for it. We're ready to take that step into the 21st century. So thank you.
Thank you.
And then I will make one comment as well, if I can go back to the coordination with your neighbors and how critical that is going to be to you, because the pain threshold is going to increase for, it sounds to me like from August until, let's say, April, at least, if you're going to open in May. And I know that if you will have a continuing communication with them, everyone's life will be easier, and I know that our staff won't be receiving as many phone calls as if you didn't coordinate. And I know you're supposed to, under the construction plan, you're going to coordinate with the schools as well. But I am going, just so that you know, I am going to ask the staff to write something specifically into your conditions of approval in terms of the coordination with the school times. Again, we are very happy to have you here. I'm personally, because I have grandsons who love the Main Street properties, they're going to miss it, but so will all the high schoolers that we see looking as well. So thank you. Any more questions? No, you may be seated. Thank you. And please be sure to fill out those cards, though, for us and turn them in. We'll now close the public portion of the public hearing and ask any commissioners if they have questions of staff, want to comment on the application, or want to introduce a motion for consideration by the commission. Commissioner Erickson.
I'll introduce a motion to approve the application for conditional use permit application U-14-001 and the accompanying architectural site application S-14005, and can make the findings that the project is categorically exempt pursuant to section 15301 of the state environmental guidelines as adopted by the town for consideration of a project that's adding less than 10,000 square feet to an existing structure. I can make the findings of granting a conditional use permit that are outlined in Exhibit 2 of the packet that we received. I can make the findings that the project was reviewed by staff and the architectural consultant and clearly reviewed by the Planning Commission at some level of detail, and determine that it's in compliance with the commercial design guidelines, that the project is in compliance with the traffic policy of the town, in addition to paying the traffic mitigation fees that are required. The community benefit that's required under the traffic policy is clearly outlined in the report of the staff, so that becomes the documentation for a community benefit, and that I can say that we dutifully took into consideration those things that we needed to and that the project is of a high-quality design and materials and will enhance the streetscape and be compatible with the surrounding development in the area. And as a part of my motion, I would call the attention of my fellow commissioners to item number 21 in Exhibit 3, which is the sign permit, and would ask, and I think the wording in that is adequate for me to be comfortable to introduce a motion, and would ask the staff, as they're implementing that, as they always do, to be sensitive to the issues that Commissioner Talasfor raised. I would call attention to fellow commissioners to item number 7 in Exhibit 4, which is about lighting. It says in part the text, all proposed exterior illumination shall be designated to not create offset site impacts to adjacent neighbors. Seems to me that wording is adequate to address the concerns that were expressed, and I have confidence that the staff, for the neighbors, I would say I have confidence in the staff heard what was brought to everyone's attention tonight at the public hearing, and that the staff will be dutiful in addressing those concerns before they approve the building permit. I would also call attention to item number 56 to my fellow commissioners and suggest as part of the motion that appropriate language be added by the staff. I'll leave the specific language to the staff, but that it would incorporate in a way that they would see appropriate that contact information for the on-site construction manager would be available at all times during the construction project, and that the project would have a clear coordination project expectation with other projects that are in the vicinity, and that there would be sure that there was outreach to the elementary school district, specifically to be sure that they were aware of what was going on and all those kinds of plans, so that they would be in a position, if appropriate, to communicate. So I would be confident the staff could figure out what the specific language is of that. I would also call attention to members of the commission to item number 60 in that, and suggest a wording change to that the hours that are not allowed for hauling off-site be expanded to 2:30 p.m. and 6 p.m. rather than 4 and 6 p.m. So we expand the period of time so that there's no off-hauling between 2:30 and 6. And that's my motion.
And do I have a second? Commissioner Talasfor?
Second the motion. I would also like to add a couple of conditions that came during the discussion with the applicant that they agreed to, and that would be the interior lighting, that they agreed to install the step dimmers to dim the interior light to 25% at night. And they're giving me a nod over there. And that is to protect the neighbors in the area.
I don't think it's necessary to put that level of detail into the motion, because my sense is that the staff heard us, because there were a number of lighting issues. They heard what was said, what was recorded as and I have confidence that the staff, because the staff has to approve the permit, and they have a duty to approve that, and I'm expecting the staff to carry out.
Well, just so it's not overlooked. Right. And so, because
we need to. Well,
Okay.
I wouldn't want to include that in my motion. So,
Commissioners, we need a second, and so Commissioner Talasfor, if you are unable to second because of your concern of the lighting, I understand that, but we need a second before we can go into further discussion.
I did second it.
So you're fine to second it?
I had seconded it, and then I wanted to add
Okay,
this.
so now
we're in discussion about that.
about adding, and Commissioner Erickson has indicated his unwillingness to expand to your level of detail. So are you withdrawing your additional comment and still seconding?
I would like not to withdraw the idea of it. Maybe I could ask staff how they view this. Would that be all right? May I do that through the
We
chair?
have a we have a motion on the floor, and we have a second without your additions to it. And so if we move into discussions with the staff, then we would be amending the motion ultimately.
Okay, so I can't do that. All right, then I guess I'll have to withdraw my motion. I mean, my second. Thank you.
All right. I just want to, just procedurally, let's make this clear.
That's fine.
So, Commissioner Erickson, I will second your motion as stated, and so the motion has been made and seconded, and now we are open to discussion. So, Commissioner Talasfor.
Well, I would hope that we would, if I could ask the staff then, because lighting is everything, and I understand the need for it, absolutely. But since the applicant was so willing to go ahead, in fact, every head shook yes, I didn't think it was anything more than just a reminder that we just not overlook that. So could the staff respond to how you would interpret this now so that I can feel comfortable in voting for this motion?
Well, we've looked at it. Obviously, we've had a motion and a second not to put that specificity in there. We wouldn't, as a matter of course, put that specificity in there. But I think that both staff and the applicant have heard, what direction you specifically are interested in.
Okay.
And so we would hope that they would stick with that. And as it came through building process, it would be looked at. And if it's not in there, then staff will certainly ask, but we will not have any ability to force that.
Okay, except if I drive by or someone complains.
Even a complaint, it's not going to trigger any nuisance issues in the town code.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Paulson, if I could just ask you a question. When we go to item number 7 on the conditions of approval, and we have the exact language that is the final lighting plan will be reviewed during building plan check, that would include the interior, not just the exterior. Am I correct?
It does. And
All right.
so, the issue is if we have visible light bulbs that are floodlights shining out off-site, those are going to be issues. But, if there's lighting that's all recessed inside and has some glow in the evening, then that's a little more challenging. But it sounds like the applicant's willing to handle some of those as it comes through building.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. We voted unanimously to approve the plans as submitted and as amended this evening. And Mr. Paulson, are there appeal rights?
There are appeal rights. Anyone that's not satisfied with the decision of the Planning Commission can appeal that decision to the Town Council. The appeal must be filed within 10 days. The appeal form is available in the clerk's office, and there is a fee for filing the appeal.
Thank you. And that concludes the agendized items. Did you have a comment? No. Okay, all right, fine. We have under new other business, a report from Director of Community Development, Mr. Paulson.
Yeah, so I just have a few brief comments, and then I believe the town attorney has something that they'd like to add. So DRC has not taken any action since our last meeting on any items since we last met. The town council has met once on Monday of this week. They approved the conditional use permit for the modification of Holt's Restaurant to increase to full liquor. And they also discussed the alcoholic beverage policy and live entertainment ordinance. And they decided to create an ad hoc committee so that they could further discuss both of those topics and come to an agreement or come into an agreement of, trying to resolve a number of issues that they discussed throughout that evening. One thing I will say is obviously they were very complimentary of the commission's work that they'd done thus far to date on that topic, and so they were very complimentary and appreciative of that. Tomorrow night, since Mariko's not here to announce it like last time, the Housing Element Advisory Board will be meeting this time in the council chambers tomorrow nights from 7 to 9. So anyone who's interested in that can come forward. And then lastly, from my end, we're we're pleased as a staff to announce that the town has appointed a new combination position, Assistant Town Manager, Community Development Director, who's Laurel Prevetti. She's been with the City of San Jose for 28 years. She'll be starting with the town on May 5th, and so we're looking forward to that. That will result in some shifting on multiple staff levels, but Sandy Bailey will be going to a Special Projects Director, so she'll be dealing with a lot of the, trying to wrap up a handful of the long-range issues that have, policy issues that we've been dealing with. So we're looking forward to that. Additionally, congratulate Irwin. He's appointed to the long-range planning and housing manager in an acting role until Laurel comes on, and ultimately figure out where we're going to go with that. And with that, that closes my report.
And the town attorney?
Yes, earlier I sent you an email about possibly scheduling a workshop to go over the Brown Act, the FPCC regulations, and also your rules and procedures. There's two ways we could do it. We could do it at one of your regular meetings. It's about an hour and a half to 2 hour presentation. Personally, I'd rather do it as a separate workshop, a little bit more informal. Maybe we can fit around the table. If not, you know, it seems it wouldn't make your meetings so long that way. So that's the way I'd prefer it. But if you'd rather just schedule it at your meeting, then we'll try to pick one that's not as busy. For dates that are available in this room is available. May 6th, 7th, 15th, 20th, or 21st is available. If you were going to pick a date other than your regular meetings, maybe we could pick two just in case the two members that aren't here, if the first date isn't available on their schedule, they could do another one. So again, those dates were May 6th and 7th, which is a Tuesday, Wednesday, May 15th, which is a Thursday, and May 20th and 21st, which is a Tuesday, Wednesday. All those days are available for this room. Yes, or that's up to you guys. If you want to do 6, you could do 6. You could do 5. It's any of those nights are available.
Do you have any discussion? Commissioner Erickson?
So this is really a question either for Irwin or Joel, or Mr. Adonias or Mr. Paulson. I should be more formal. So the 15th of May, is that a housing element meeting? I don't.
No, not that
No.
date. I've
Okay.
got the calendar.
Okay.
We're okay.
Okay, I wasn't sure. Yeah.
Do you want our response right now?
Yes, please.
If
Okay.
we could.
I would go for May 6th.
I'm agreeable to that.
May 6th is okay with me. It's a Tuesday.
I unfortunately cannot do Tuesdays or Thursdays, so I'm hoping we could do a different day. But if that's what the rest of the commission, if that works for them, I will move my schedule for it.
Is the 7th a Wednesday available, Commissioner Erickson?
I can't do either the 6th or 7th, so I know that.
Okay, so we can move on to the 20th or 21st. Oh, that's the Tuesday and the Thursday. In
21st?
the 21st is a Wednesday, is it not? 21st is a Wednesday.
Right now, I can.
You can. So
I can right now.
so far, at least 5 of us
Okay.
can do Wednesday, the 21st.
And as a backup date, which would be the best if it had to be a Tuesday or Thursday? The 15th? Okay. And I'll check with the two commissioners that aren't here, and hopefully we can schedule it on the 21st, and I'll let you know.
All right.
Timing, 7 p.m., is that the time you wanted to start, or did you want to start earlier?
Earlier. I would
6?
rather do earlier.
6 o'clock? Then we'd be done by 8 for sure. Okay.
All right, so then we've agreed that our first choice will be on May 21st at 6 p.m. For a 2-hour meeting. And is this, can the public sit through
Yes.
this meeting? Yes,
Absolutely.
okay. I wasn't sure about that. Any other commission comments? If not, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.